Hi, it's Wayne from howtofish.com.au. Arrived here this morning, and the first thing I do while I'm setting up is just throw a little bit of bait out into the area I'm going to fish. I'm only fishing a couple of rod lengths away from me, so I can't be jumping around on the bank or anything because I'll obviously scare the fish, because this is such a small waterway and I'm fishing so close. But the one thing I want to do is make sure that I draw the fish in and they know that there's food around. So as I set up, I put the bait out into a couple of spots that I'm going to fish, because I'm not sure what's in this water and it might be little tiny things. So I want to give myself every chance of catching at least something. Let's see how we go.
With the COVID-19 restrictions on movement, I had to find some water that was close to home. So the Plenty River is close to my house. It's within walking distance, and as part of my daily exercise I'd walk along the river. This time I'm looking for spots to fish, so I spent the last week just walking the river, and I'm looking for areas that I can access. Because the banks are very steep, the water is shallow, there's lots of snags, there's not a lot of good places to fish. But by walking around I did find some spots that I thought were possible. The hardest bit being to get down to the water, because there is a bit of a drop. Most of the banks are very high. So looking for that perfect spot where I could get access closer to the water, where I had a bit of depth. That was one of the things I needed. Is I know that during winter the fish are going to hold up in the deeper areas where the temperature is more consistent, especially in the deeper water. The top of the water, especially on those very cold mornings, gets very cold, and that's what the fish don't want to, that's where they don't want to stay. And in winter, midwinter, the fish are really slowing down. I wouldn't expect to get much more than carp, eels, roach, possibly redfin, and very remotely any Australian natives or trout. So I knew pretty much what I would catch here. I found a couple of spots finally that I thought I could get a fishing rod into that had some reasonable access and a little bit of depth, and also I didn't want fast moving water, so most of the river's that way, but I wanted some slow water that looked like it might offer up some fish. During the week I checked out what my own fish were doing, and they weren't feeding ravenously, they weren't moving much, so I knew that that's probably what the fish in the river would be like, so I was preparing for that. Rods I was using were going to be simple. The lighter rod with 2.5 kilo line on, had a pre-stretched trace on it, a size 14 hook, some maggots, a line stop and a very small sinker, just enough to actually push it out there but not create much resistance. The heavier rod had 6 kilo line on, it had a size 6 hook on for the worms, it had a fluorocarbon trace, and then I had a line stop to a larger sinker which was just heavy enough to cast out a little bit further. I got down to the water as early as I could. I wanted to take advantage of the golden hour, which is that hour from darkness into first light. As it turned out, I got a little bit later than that, but I was still nice and early, which was good. The only thing was, it was very cold. Even when the sun came up, it was a little bit cooler than I was comfortable, but that's fishing. If you want the fish, you've got to get in there. The spot I decided to fish had a little bit of depth, not too many snags, and the water slowed down in just the right places to get a bait in where I thought the fish might be holding. About half an hour after casting in, I started to get little bites. I picked up my rod so that I could actually feel what was going on, and then after it started to pull just a little bit, I struck into it and felt something reasonably solid on the other end. It had a little bit of weight on it, and I thought this was a good fish, but as I got it closer in, I realized, in fact, it was an eel. And while it was just an eel, I was still pretty happy to have caught something. This thing had a little bit of weight, So it wasn't the smallest eel in the water, and I wasn't expecting this at all either, because they're normally around when it gets a little bit warmer, as are the other fish. But it was good to have caught something on the day. And it just shows you that if you do enough research on your local waterway, you might be able to get out there and catch a few fish. So why not look at a map of your area, look at where the local waterways are, prepare for that, do a little bit of research, and go and catch some fish. It can be pretty surprising what is available in some of these suburban creeks and streams. And if the COVID travel regulations allow you to, get out there and catch some fish.
Well, that was pretty exciting to catch fish or catch an eel. Wasn't really expecting that today, to tell you the truth. It's so cold. It's only about 6 degrees. I only have about an hour and a half, and I caught that within about half an hour. The bait that I've used today, I always carry some corn with me for this type of water, fresh water, maggots and worms. So always have plenty of worms if you've got a worm farm. Really easy to do, and that's what that eel took, was worms today. But what I did do, I did dip them in my fish magnet, so that fish attractant, I put that on them, on the bait, just to add a bit more attraction in there, so that there was something more for the fish to pick up in this large water. Well, when I say large water, there's all this water and I don't expect there to be that many fish. And so we got that. So I'm pretty happy about that. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're interested in techniques, if you're interested in fish attracting extracts or burley, have a check out of my website, howtofish.com.au.